Hi again. Today I'm gonna start building an oak table with a marble slab for my friend Jonas. These are some oak planks about 2 inches or 50 millimeters thick that Jonas milled a couple of years ago. They have been laying at his place, drying and curing slowly. Now I don't want to try and rip them on my table so straight away because they are not flat, and I'm a bit worried that if I run them over the table so they can twist and bind to the table saw blade. So I thought I'd rough rip them in some other way first and then run them over the jointer. And for that I have this little primitive jig. It's a humble little thing that I have owned for many years but never tried out because it's so simple. It's a jig for a chainsaw. And the way it works is you bolt it to the chainsaw sword like that, and then you run the jig along some sort of beam, timber beam. I think this is set up for a 2x4 beam or 45 by 95 millimeters as we would say in Sweden. But it is adjustable so you can loosen these nuts and move the fence on it if you have a narrower beam or something. So I'm just gonna try it out now since I don't really have anything else but this here at home if I don't want to use my table saw right away. And since it's been sitting in the shed for years, maybe it's about time I just test it and see if it's worth using. Let's see if I can find something useful in here. There actually is something right at the top here. Like some sort of TV cook. Here's one I prepared earlier. I did actually, many years ago I prepared this one. It's a leftover beam from a knockdown table for medieval markets that me and my fiancé did before. So I can repurpose this. I think it's fairly straight, which is always nice if you want to cut straight. To be fair, it's not a 2x4 or a 45 by 95 millimeter beam. It's more like a 2x3, 45 by 70 mil. But since the jig is adjustable, I think this can work anyway. It's long enough with a good margin, so in that respect it's good. Some tools for the little jig. As you can see, the fence on the jig has to be adjusted so it fits the beam. I'll undo these. Don't lose any parts. So now I can just put it in against the beam, see if it slides nicely. I'm just gonna bolt it tight and hope for the best. There we go. Now, this is the way it is supposed to work. You start the chainsaw and then you just tilt it so the blade comes down. So this guide rail is mounted on top of the planks. I'm just gonna screw it down. It goes down and then you just pull it backwards. Yeah, it worked about as well as I was expecting. It is a fairly straight cut, but it's not exactly a smooth cut, as you hopefully can see here. Never mind how they joint it anyway. As I said, I'm gonna rip the planks with really good margin here, so I have a lot to spare. Well, it isn't totally shit. As I said, the cut is fairly straight, it's just very rough because of the simple jig, I guess. It's a good testament to the fact that you always get what you pay for, but if you can't afford anything more than a small cheap jig like this, then you can make usable rough lumber with it. And if you have a jointer planer as well, then you can just cut with a good margin and mill it down afterwards. That's what I'm gonna do myself. But I will definitely try to use Jonas's sawmill if I want to make more lumber. This is just a quick fix here at home now, really. Maybe it could have its uses out on camping sites or in the forest where you don't want to bring too much tools. Maybe. But it will affect the outcome, of course, of the project. Anyway, I'm going to mill the rest of them, and then I'm gonna set up the jointer planer. Now I have milled these 6 pieces to 30 millimeter, and that's about 1 inch and 3/8, I believe. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And this is thick enough for the table to be really steady, and not thin enough for it to appear spindly and weak. And I also have a little bit of meat for hand planing, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do any decorations or carvings, or maybe a little bit. I haven't quite decided. We spoke a little bit about it, me and Jonas and his wife. I don't think we settled on anything really. Anyway, I think it's a good middle ground, stability and sort of touch of elegance. Still pretty heavy though, I mean 30 millimeters of oak. That won't go anywhere. Next step is to decide what dimension I want to make the legs in. They're pretty big now, way too big. They're about 90 millimeters square, like 3.5 inch. Way too much. I think I'm gonna take them down to 70, just under 3 inches, and taper them down towards the floor. But that will have to wait for another day, because I'm finishing for today. My fiancée is coming home from yoga class soon, and she expects dinner. So I better get inside and continue this another day. Oh, can't drink this. There's only sawdust. Pity. That's the table legs milled to their basic proportions, 70 by 70 millimeters. I think that's 2 3/4. Next I will make mortise holes in these to receive the tenons from the horizontal timbers in the support frame that will support the marble slab. But I won't do that yet, because I still have to mill those pieces to their final width. And I left them pretty wide, as you can see. And maybe one is enough. So I jointed one side first, flat, and squared one of the edges to that, so those two sides are true. Then I milled it down to 30 millimeters, and now I'm going to take it down to the desired width on this side. I'm not sure if I settled on what width I would make them. Maybe I have something in my sketches that can give me a clue. Well, not really, I'll just have to decide on something then. I think I want to make them pretty wide in the ends, where the tenons meet the mortises of the table legs. But if I leave that width all the way, I'm thinking about 100 millimeters, 4 inches. If I leave that all the way between the legs, it won't look that elegant, and maybe it will be a little bit in the way for the knees as well, because this is going to be a coffee table, about 50 centimeters high, about 20 inches. So my plan is to make a bow cut, both on the long side, as you can see here on the sketch, and also on the short side. And if it's not wide enough where they meet the legs, there won't be enough material left in the middle when I make that cut. And also for stability, I think it's a good thing to make it fairly wide in the tenon part. So 100 millimeters, and then when I made the tenon, I can make the bow cut. Unfortunately, since I milled this on 3 sides, it is very convenient to rip it to the side width on the table saw, so I'm gonna do that next. I'm gonna set it a little bit proud of 100 mil, so I have something to plane after ripping. So maybe 1 or 2 millimeters extra. These offcuts can probably be used for pegs or something later. It's time to make the mortise and tenon joints, and I made a little bit of a visual representation on the top of one of the legs here. So this is how the mortises will look inside of the leg. They will be 20 millimeters wide. The width of the entire frame piece will be 30, so there will be a shoulder on each side of the mortise hole, which will make it more stable and also look nicer. Mortises will be 30 millimeters deep, so I will make the tenons maybe 28 millimeters long, so there's a little bit of margin in the bottom of the mortise. And on the side of the leg I will mark out like this. I saved 20 millimeters of wood on top, and then I measure 100 millimeters down. That's the entire width of the frame timber. Here as well you can see the mortise is 20 millimeters wide, and the entire width of the timber is 30. bad thing to have a nice drill press if you want to do a lot of mortises in a hardwood like oak. But now I'm gonna use my chisels to finish the cuts. $20mm and just the widest one I have. And maybe a slightly smaller one to clear out the chips. Good, that's what I need. That's all the mortises in the table legs. Next up, I'm gonna start making tenons on these pieces.